Hello, Syrvivor Syracuse. We are so excited to bring back the post recap shows. We're just getting into the merge for season 6, Double Trouble. My name's Annie. I played season 7, and I'll be one of your hosts.
Hi, I'm Bridget. I'm your other host. I played season 10.
Um, so yeah, we have Skylar here, who unfortunately just got voted out. So Skylar, do you want to just talk about your game a little bit, and everyone can feel free to chime in if you have something to say.
Sure. Hey guys. I had a really fun season, and it's unfortunate I got voted out, and I was also blindsided. As you saw, I had an idol, and I went home with it, which is embarrassing. And I got it the same day I got voted out also, which did not make it better. But it was a really fun season, and I got to play with Preston, who you guys couldn't tell on the season, evidently, but he and I were very close. And that helped the game a lot since I didn't know pretty much anybody else going into it except for him. But it was super fun. I don't know what else to say.
So you just said you got voted out with an idol in your pocket, which I wish I could say it happens to the best of us. It doesn't. What made you think kind of that you had the security to not play it? Ever in people's vlogs, they're saying Skylar feels so comfortable in this game. What made you feel that comfortable, even though you were obviously on the precipice of getting voted out?
Yeah, well, I didn't know Graham and Johnny were both working with the other side at all. Obviously I knew Zach was, so I was not surprised about that at all. But I was also talking to Valentina and Phelan a lot in the end, and I was genuine in my conversations with them, towards when I was voted out. I didn't want to vote them out, and that was one of the reasons that I was really trying to get Jake out, because Preston and Zach were both throwing out Valentina's name, I think, or maybe Phelan's. And I was like, no, I don't want to do that. I want to keep the girls in. So I think the reason I mainly got voted out was because I was going so hard for Jake's name in that conversation that we had, that we talked about in the episode. But I feel like I was most confident because I was in the majority alliance, didn't think Graham and Johnny would flip. And I mean, even in that episode, they weren't bringing up my name most of the episode till the very end. So up until the last 10 minutes before the vote of the episode, I was like, okay, I don't understand how my name even came up, because it hasn't come up the whole time before. I think it was just unfortunate that Valentina didn't believe my conversation with her.
I have a question, Skylar. Speaking about obviously the idol and the vote, was there any part of you that thought, I gotta play this just to be safe, survive another week, or was it 100% always between the time you found it and the actual vote, you were always going to keep it in your pocket and write it out?
Yeah, there was no chance I was gonna play the idol. I only got it a couple hours before the vote, so I didn't really have much time to think about it. Maybe if I got it a few days before and I heard some conversations, or maybe if I was a little bit more wary about it, but I only had it a couple hours before, and every single person I talked to was very adamant in who they were gonna vote. And I mean, it was a close vote. I think I got voted out by one name, so it was almost a tie. So I was not planning on using it at all.
And you didn't tell anybody about the idol, correct?
No, I didn't even tell Preston, who I was thinking about telling, and I would have told if I stayed in longer. But no, it was too close to the vote off. I didn't tell anybody.
Gotcha.
I have another question. So a lot of the episode, a lot of your vlogs, which rightly so, was focused on the fact that so many girls had been voted off kind of in a row and throughout the pre-merge. Did that play into you probably, I think you can say this, trusting Phelan and Valentina probably a little bit more than you should have, telling them about the plan to vote out, oh my gosh, what is his name?
Jake,
thank you. Telling them about the plan to vote out Jake, that. It wasn't totally clear in the episode how that kind of got around, and probably maybe influenced Zach, solidified his working with the other side, and you said, Graham and them. Do you think that played into it at all? Even though it when you play Survivor, it is like such a fair concern to see like so many girls go out in a row. Like it has to be worrying to you that that's happening anyway. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't worried that the boys were doing like an all-boy alliance and that they were intentionally targeting women, but I think it was like nice to keep some girls in. I think, yeah, I don't know if the gender played into it that much. I definitely wanted to keep them in because there were so many women going out, but I don't think that was my main reason for working with them. I think I wanted more to have an alliance on both sides because I wasn't working with pretty much anybody else over there. Like I wasn't working with Jake or Ben. So I wanted to work with a couple of them, and I really liked Phelan and Valentina.
I have one follow-up question on that. So I know there was concern about a string of girls exiting the game, but sort of going along with that, do you think there was anything pre-merge, specifically, maybe a specific person that got voted out, that you really look back on and say that really could have helped me post-merge? Is there anything, and do you think you could have done anything about it, or do you think it was completely out of your hands?
Yeah, from like day one, me and Emma were like so close in this season. We were like, I loved Emma. I wanted to be her best friend. She was awesome. And obviously I didn't write her name down. I don't think I did. I don't remember, but I'm pretty sure I didn't write her name down. She was like my number one ally. I wanted to work other than Preston, but I wanted to work with her, and Preston and her did not get along. They did not like each other, which was not a good for my game. They did not trust each other. And she ended up getting voted out, but I think hopefully we would have stayed close if she had stayed in.
All right, I've got a question. So what are your opinions on these club alliances working together in tribes? Do you think they'll be overturned in the future episodes?
By club alliances, you mean like frats and sororities?
Mm-hmm.
Is that what you mean? Well, I think it's interesting because I guess if you don't know about the alliance, or if you don't know that they're like in the same club or something, then it could be helpful. Like nobody knew me and Preston were friends. We weren't friends because of a club, but they didn't know that, which was helpful for the two of us. But I feel like when you're in a club, somebody knows somebody and they know you're in an alliance. So if you don't come out and be clear about it in the beginning, you're gonna look shady like Zach and Jake did. And that was a big reason the two of them were, like Jake was targeted especially, was because we were like, well, they're in a frat together. They didn't tell anybody. So I think they're okay if you're like clean about them, but if you kind of try and keep them a secret and then people find out about it, then they're gonna want to break it up immediately.
For the people in them, do you think they kind of feel some kind of responsibility more so than just Survivor, where they can't betray someone they knew going into the game, or is it fair game?
Well, I know Zach didn't want to betray Jake, at least early on as this episode, because he was talking about how he wouldn't vote with me because he was so close with Jake. And I don't know if he ever felt like he would blindside him, but he didn't want to. I don't know about Phelan and Valentina, but I feel like there's definitely some allegiance, at least early on in the season. And then I guess eventually you feel like you have no choice because you want to win. But early on, I feel like there's definitely got to be something between the two of them.
It's actually, this isn't a question, it's just like a comment on what you were talking about and what Ryan asked. It's funny that you bring that up just because like you and Preston, I think out of the season so far had the most well-navigated like previous relationship, because like Jake and Zach's was like, everyone agreed up until this episode still that it was like, they're like, why did you hide this from us? Because it's so easily like discoverable. And then you also brought up something about how like the allegiances and how you might like Jake or Zach felt more reliable for like Jake staying in and stuff like that. And I think it was maybe episode 5 where, yeah, right after Emma got voted out, where Phelan was talking about Emma being voted out and was just like, me, Emma, and Valentina were planning to align like once we got to the merge. So it's, you kind of respond on with that. Like I feel like it's so, sorry, I'm all over the place, but like they're so tightly knit that like it's just so hard to pull people apart because you don't want to like I don't know, have bad blood if you know them before, and like people take stuff like this so personally, as stupid as it seems to take it personally, but.
Yeah, and everybody knew everyone on this season, like in some way. Like it ended up subletting for me that same season, my apartment. Like everybody knew everyone.
And it was like random people too, like Valentina and Kata were like best friends freshman year, and like Ben and Sydney and Noah, like all, the casting was interesting. I don't know if if that was intentional, but it was made for a sticky situation, I would say.
Like, kind of going off of that though, like, did you find it like more difficult to like strategize in that way? Obviously, because like you wanted Jake gone, and like you said, like you didn't fully trust Zach, but like you were like, you know, working with him for a little while, but it's always tough when you like, you know, have one of your allies that you really want to bring close, but then, you know, they have someone that they're also close with that you don't want to work with. Like, was that really difficult for you to navigate in the game? Because it's always weird, like figuring out how to get rid of someone without ruining another relationship.
Yeah, and I definitely should not have gone so hard for Jake, because I feel like that's a huge reason, like Zach was like, oh, she's got to go. She wants my number one ally out. So I definitely shouldn't have gone so hard, but like I said, I didn't want Phelan and Valentina going in that episode. Looking back, should have voted Valentina out, but can't change what you did. So I think, yeah, it's hard to work around relationships when they're definitely going to be closer than you can ever get with them from like previous relationships. Like, I don't think Preston would have flipped on me for anything, and I wouldn't have flipped on Preston. And Emma might have flipped on me, and we had just like had a close relationship only in like the first few episodes of the season. So she could have flipped and gone to Phelan and Valentina and not brought me in on that. So yeah, I think that's definitely super, super hard.
All right, I have a question for you. Like, speaking of Preston, so throughout this episode, like Preston is like saying that he thinks he's a swing vote for this vote off, but he's clearly not. How do you think this like affects his reputation, like on himself, or like is reflective of his social game?
I don't know how to answer that. I don't know. Preston's just so invested in the game. Like, he loves Survivor. He loved doing it, loved being on it. I feel like he's just so invested that he like feels like he's always such a big part of it. And we both, neither me nor him, knew about Graham and Johnny. So I feel like maybe if he thought like they were solidly in our alliance and he was kind of the swing vote, I could see where he was coming from. I definitely didn't see myself as a swing vote at all. Like, but I guess if he thought Johnny and Graham were there and he might have worked with the other side, I don't know. I don't see it, but
Yeah, I mean, it's like, it's always tough when like, because you like people, I feel like we always say like in Survivor, like you have to trust your gut, like you have to trust your reads, and like Preston really thought he was right and he was just wrong, which always makes it difficult because like you don't know what you don't know, so it makes it a lot more difficult. But kind of like going off of that, like your headspace at the time, like you had talked about like really wanting to work with Preston, like you weren't going to flip on him. Is there anyone like when you were thinking deep into the game, because like you were set up well, I mean it like kind of all like came like together quickly, like you said, like looking deeper into the game, did you have like a idea of where you wanted the game to go in terms of like who you wanted to go far with, like who you saw as a threat? Like, you know, Preston in this episode mentioned like that he was starting to see Zach as a threat, and like same thing with Phelan, he's like Phelan's really playing. People like that, like, you know, it's hard, it's not like they were being targeted this episode, but like were you in that mindset of like starting to think of like, you know, who you were like looking to go far with and all that stuff?
yeah, I think I wanted me, Preston, Johnny, and Graham, I think was what we were thinking. Andrew was great, but he was kind of in his own little like bubble. He's just like really friendly with everyone, but not like in a tight alliance with anybody. Obviously he was in ours just because he was on our team previously, but I don't think he was like super, super close with anybody. So I think, and then yeah, Zach wasn't really trustworthy for us. He was definitely closer with Jake, so I don't think we were really thinking of him as being part of our like core final few. And then Ben, Kata, Phelan, and Valentina were always super close, so they kind of had their little thing going too.
Kind of speaking of like your alliances just in general, obviously you guys had that 6 on, I think it was the original Esukaris, you had that 6, and then you tribe swapped, and you said in one of your vlogs how like horrible this turned out for you because you guys got split right in half.